Saji and I was still exchanging blows. No matter how you looked at it, I clearly had the advantage. My opponent was barely keeping it together. He had bundled his snake tethers together to act as a shield, but he wasn't able to block every one of my strikes. I struck Saji so hard that it sent him crashing into the store behind him. We were close to evenly matched in terms of physical prowess. That said, my offensive and defensive skills had undergone a huge improvement lately. I still hadn't reached my full potential, but at this rate. I knocked Saji down time and time again. His legs were quivering, but that didn't stop him from getting back up. He kept throwing punches at my armor. His fists were long since broken, making a sickening crack with each impact as blood spurted. Though he tried to attach another one of his lines to me, the Red Dragon Emperor's aura was powerful enough to deflect it without trouble. Surprisingly, the line that he attached to my right arm before transformation wouldn't come off no matter what I did. Even blasting it with my aura didn't shake it loose. Just what was it connected to? Perhaps if I had Ascalon, instead of lending it to Zenovia, I might have been able to do something. But there was no use worrying about it now. I would have to wait until we caught up to where to sever the tether. There was something else troubling as well. My armor was supposed to be incredibly strong, but each time Saji landed a blow on me, the impact shook throughout my body. The pain was getting sharper and sharper, and I could feel bruises forming beneath my scale mail. I was taking damage. I'm going to win. I'll beat you. Here and now. I'll take my first step towards filling my dream. Just what was I dealing with here? My opponent was hacking up blood. At that moment, I suddenly remembered something Tannine had said during my training. Listen up, kid. The most fearful attack in the raiding game is something called a loaded blow. A loaded blow? Yeah. People fight for all sorts of purposes. Desire, pleasure, greed, a home, women, wealth, a dream. Those kinds of thoughts get mixed into one's actions. Some folks have devoted their lives to raiding games. But out of all participants in this chaotic melting pot, there is one type that you should be most afraid of. Those who could use a loaded blow. So, what is it? A special move? A sacred gear? Magic? No. Look at your fist, kid. What are you holding? I don't know. You put something in it. A dream. Or maybe your soul. That's what it means to throw everything into your punch. And that's the most dangerous attack of all. Against regular strikes, you might be able to defend yourself to some extent, with knowledge and preparation. But a loaded blow will resound deep into your core. Not even magic and science of the underworld can explain it fully. Yet someone who tasted it will know, yeah, it's that bad. An opponent who can unleash that kind of attack is the real thing. A rival to be feared. Never try to engage them. Even if they are lower in level than you are, a hit like that will be enough to tilt the scales of a match. No matter what you do, it will penetrate your defenses. I finally understood. Saji's attack were breaking through to me. They were somehow penetrating my armor and reaching my body. That spirit, dormant in his sacred gear, responding to his depths of emotion. Hey, dragon-type sacred gears are scary stuff, Dre. Now I really don't know what's going on. I thought back. Yodo! Even as the harsh reality of the situation became evident to him, Saji refused to relent. I responded in kind, and we clashed again. Let me ask you one thing. What are they like? Are the rumors true? Are the president's breasts as soft as marshmallows? Is a woman's body truly like an untouched pudding? I was struck by the intensity burning in Saji's eyes. Seizing his chance, he launched another line, latched it onto the bench behind me, and swung my way with all of his strength. I quickly crossed my arms to shield myself, and the weaponized piece of furniture shattered into countless fragments on impact. That was the amount of force Saji was putting into his strikes. What was going on in that head of yours when you touched them? Damn you! I could have swore that his hits were even stronger now than when he was talking about his dream. Next, he launched a barrage of additional tethers into a nearby furniture store and began to swing a large haul of household items over his head in my direction. Was he planning on smashing them all down at me at once? With the objects raining down, I let loose a minimally charged burst. with my dragon shot. Adjusting the power level like this sure wasn't easy. Keeping it up was swiftly going to become difficult. The blast of red-tinged demonic power swept the assembled items away in a single burst, and yet, something collided with my back. Glancing around, I saw that Saji had adjusted the trajectory of one of the lines, hurling a wardrobe into me from behind, but the impact vibrated through my body. Even if I wasn't severely injured, this kind of blow clearly wasn't healthy. If we kept going on like this, the effects would start piling up. You think I want to do that? I want to rub breasts. Saji was crying tears of frustration. I've never even seen one before. I've been praying to cast my eyes on a real-life nipple my entire life, and you get to touch them as much as you like. Damn it, Hyodo. I punched Saji down to the ground, but he immediately rose back up to his feet. Talk about spirited. But Hyodo, breasts aren't what I want most. I want to become a teacher. A teacher, damn it. Is that so bad? Why does everyone have to mark our dreams all the time? Then he began to howl at me, or rather, to the viewers. We didn't announce our aspirations to all of you, just for you to laugh at us. I'm not. What makes you think I'd mock something you're willing to risk your life over? I exclaimed in reply. Saji came flying at me. I hurled my fist at him. One strike wasn't enough, however, so I hit him yet again. His face was beginning to swell. Some of his teeth were clearly broken, and the blood was dripping down from his mouth. Still, Saji stood, coming at me over and over. He was stubborn, foolish to a point of, I'm going to surpass you, me, today. The declaration resounded heavily through my armor, all the way to my heart. I must have struck him down at least a dozen more times after that. Before I knew it, the sound of Saji's ragged breath was growing fainter and fainter. He should have been at his limit. His mouth was lacerated in numerous places, so much so that he couldn't stanch the flow of blood anymore. Intelligible speak was beyond him now. Bruises dotted his face, one even holding his left eye shut. He was unsteady on his feet. His body swayed from side to side. A few of his fingers were twisted in unnatural directions, and yet, in spite of all that, he continued to glare my way, a piercing glint in his eyes. Come on, Saji. Come on. Saji. Don't tell me you've had enough. You're not going to let it end like this, are you? I thought you said that idiots like us kept on pushing forward to the very end. He edged slowly forward, step by step. Broken and battered, he refused to run away. Without ever breaking eye contact with me, he charged forward. His physical state reminded me of how I'd looked during my match with Rias Phoenix. I'd witnessed my sorry state on my recordings. Thoroughly pummeled, yet still pressing on, because I needed to reach my opponent. You poured your soul into your training, right? Well, so did I. I could feel the tremendous pressure emanating from Saji. I was clearly the better fighter, but still, a terrible sense of fear seized me. No matter how many times I hit him, he wouldn't quit. Never had I imagined I'd encounter a foe who installed such tremendous dread into me. Hey, Rise of Phoenix, I'm guessing this is what you felt like when I kept coming for you. I get it now. The reason you kept knocking me to the ground. Saji, I'm going to beat you. He threw another punch at me with his mangled arm. It was slow, and I evaded it easily and delivered a counter. My attack caught Saji square in the cheek. The result was instantaneous. He lost consciousness. Astonishingly, he had still managed to grab a hold of my right arm. He gripped it so unbelievably firm that I couldn't shake him off. He was all cold, but still clung to me. Then, a bright light began to envelop his body. I refused to take my eyes off Saji until he had completely vanished. Something in me worried that if I stopped watching him, even for a moment, he would wake up. One of Sona Suchi's pawns has retired. Konoko. I retracted the mask covering my face. Can you hold my hand? Ise? She asked with a puzzled look. I've never beat a friend up before. I knew I would need to do this. I knew. But still. She took my trembling fist in her hands. Even through my gauntlet, I could feel her warmth. You were cool, Issei. I'm proud of you. Never had I needed to hear those words so badly before. My fight with Saji over, I broke open a door to the nearby vending machine and fetched myself a bottle of water. Konako decided to get something to drink too. Damn it. I couldn't stop shaking. Was this because of my armor? Sure, I'd taken a lot of damage in the fight, but I should still be able to keep going. An announcement had just informed us that one of our knights was out of the raiding game. Kiba, Zenobia? I had no way of knowing who. One of them had prevailed, the other one wounded. Our opponents had lost a knight and a rook as well. That left us with 6 pieces remaining, while the other side just had 4. Although we had a numerical advantage, it was no time to let our guard down. In my present state, I had less than 20 minutes left before I ran out of strength. We had to get this over as soon as possible. Issei. Konako pointed at my right arm. Right. Even now, with Saji defeated, his line was still attached to me. Not even activating my armor had been enough to get rid of it. There was no doubting that it led to the C-Tree home base. What was this supposed to do? It certainly couldn't be good. The fact that I had advantage with Saji meant that he poured considerable power into it. Saji, what are you thinking? At that moment, a voice came through our communication earpieces. Everyone on offense, can you hear me? We're advancing to the other team's home base. It was the Prez. She was finally moving out. The opening and middle stages of the match were over, and it was time for the final spurt. I took a deep breath and looked at Konako. Let's go. She gave me a quick nod as we proceeded into the last stage of the battle. A central atrium occupied the middle of the shopping center, filled with a ring of benches that encircled a clock installed atop a large pillar. It was the kind of place where shoppers would stop for a break during their spending sprees. Having reached this landmark, we came to a halt. Why, you ask? Because the chairwoman was standing right in front of us. Greetings, Issei Hyodo, Konako Tojo. I see this is the Red Dragon Emperor in all of his glory. I can sense a tremendous force inside you. It's only natural that people see you as a threat. She remarked calmly. A barrier protected the chairwoman. Her 2 bishops, both members of the student council, were the ones maintaining it. The line extending from my right arm ended at one of those bishops. It can't be. Was their scheme to channel my powers into the bishops to fuel the shield? If they were using the energy of the Red Dragon Emperor, it would be all but impenetrable. If only Kiba or Zenobia had been here. Cutting through this barrier with a holy sword was our best chance of destroying it. Before long, the student council's bespectacled vice chairwoman, Shinra, made an appearance. She too was an incredible beauty, with a surprisingly sexy and mature body. Following after her, from the direction that Konako and I had approached, was Kiba. So Zenobia was the one that had been defeated. You're a bold one, Sona. Making your way to the center of the battlefield like this, someone stated. It was the Prez's voice. I looked over my shoulder to find that she had indeed arrived. I can say the same of you, Rias, replied the chairwoman. Indeed, we reached the closing act of our bout. I must admit, things have played out rather differently than I expected. The Prez's expression was stern. Indeed, the plan had been for Kiba and Zenobia to target the chairwoman. To that end, I served as a decoy. Unfortunately, our enemy had seen right through that tactic. Was the chairwoman a cut above us when it came to raiding games? No, I had to believe in the Prez. All of a sudden, my vision felt distant. Huh? What's going on? I staggered where I stood. My mind was growing foggy, my strength ebbing. Before I knew it, I had fallen to my knees. The Prez quickly noticed what had come over me. Just as Ozzy activated her sacred gear and its healing ability, a gentle light enveloped me, emitting a pale green color. It wiped away the pain, but the dazed sensation remained. I watched as the Prez retrieved our team's stock of Phoenix Tears, but stopped. She had probably realized that if Ozzy's Twilight healing couldn't fix the problem, then the tears would similarly have little effect. My other team members had caught on to my predicament too, and watched me in consternation. The chairwoman broke into a small smile. Neither Ozzy's Twilight Healing nor your Phoenix Tears would do any good. I've watched your recording of your match with Riser, and I realized just how formidable Hyodo is. He will never give up fighting for the sake of his friends, for himself, and above all, for you, Rias. Sona paused there for a moment before turning to me. Straightforward combat would never be enough to best you. I can tell that you're the kind to keep getting up no matter how many times you collapse. As far as we're concerned, your strength of will is equally as impressive as the powers of the Red Dragon Emperor. Yes, perhaps you can believe any enemy can be defeated, so long as you don't quit. That mindset feeds into your abilities, increasing your power far beyond its original potential. It's your greatest weapon, Hyodo. She had a point. That strength of will was practically my only redeeming feature. And so, we had no choice but to remove you from the board another way. One of the opposing team's bishops lifted a plastic satchel. It was filled with red liquid. Blood, perhaps? That pouch was at the end of the line, still connected to me. No way. However, the chairwoman had confirmed it. This is your blood. You may have been reincarnated as a demon, but you were once human. And when human loses half their blood, the result is fatal. You're familiar with the rules of the rating game, aren't you? If a fighter is rendered unable to continue, they were removed from the field for medical treatment. Saji, damn you. So this was your plan from the very beginning? Gah, my body lost all of its strength. Kiba threw a dagger-shaped holy demon sword into the air, slicing through the line, but my blood continued to gush out, only now onto the floor. So it was the line itself that was bleeding me dry. It's too late. You've already lost too much. You should be removed from the battle any minute now, the chairwoman declared, her voice stone cold. Sona, you... The press rushed towards her, her face brimming with anguish. We had all been outsmarted. Yes, Saji used his sacred gear to bleed Hyodo drop by drop, even as he was beaten down. It took him a lot of practice and precise control to adapt a technique normally used to suck energy to one that can drain blood, but he rose to meet the challenge. He kept getting back up, not only because of his pride and dreams, but also to stall. Apparently, the process was slow. Saji had been willing to sacrifice himself just to buy enough time to pull it off. He could have tried delaying me simply by running away, but instead, he had confronted me face to face. Saji, you're insane. All that had been done so he could win to my face? You should be close to being retired, Hyodo. With all the blood you lost, I can't imagine you've got more than 1 or 2 attacks left. Your armor is solid, your attack power is strong, but there are many great ways to defeat you, even if we can't best you in a contest of force, as unable to fight according to the rules. I couldn't even stand this anymore. I was done for. A strategy like this had never occurred to me. Were the chairwoman's tactics better than ours? Sona directed a question to the press. Rias, what are you betting on this match? I've staked my life on it. My dream won't be easy to attain. If I don't take down the obstacles that lie in front of me, I'll never be able to open up my pathway to success. And so, Rias, I'll destroy your pride and reputation. The press made a sour face at this declaration of war. She must have been frustrated beyond belief. There was no denying that she had started this match with the advantage, to the point where her victory had seemed all but certain. Yet the battle now come to this. Losing to what should have been a weaker opponent would ruin her reputation. That was what the chairwoman was trying to do here? Sona Citri, just how calculating are you? The chairwoman's attention then shifted to me. Saji. He was always going on about how he wanted to surpass you. To him, you're a fellow pawn, a friend, and a rival he needs to overcome. I could feel the truth behind those words. I had experienced his depth of his fighting spirit and aspirations firsthand during a bout. There could be no denying them. Saji must have been gunning for me from the very start. But you have a legendary dragon inside of you. And so he always had an inferiority complex. I I wanted to show him that he didn't need anything like that to fight against you. It seemed like he finally got it. That line didn't disappear even after you beat him. It's a testament to how strongly he feels. Since you're just about to leave the battle, let me say this. Just as you had your sights set square on rising to the top, Saji's have been locked on defeating you. You aren't the only pawn going all out to fulfill your dreams. Remember who it is who beat you. Genshiro Saji. I'm going to surpass you, me, today. What Saji had said to me near the end of the fight reverberated in my mind. Saji. So all of his training was to take me down? Damn it, Saji. You're amazing. No matter how many times I knocked you down, all you were thinking about was beating me. Even if you couldn't take me out directly, you had faith in your allies to finish the job. If you couldn't deliver the necessary blow, you don't need to worry anymore. I'm done for. Your attacks have bested me. But I'm not going to disappear without showing off my newest special technique first. I mustered up what little remained of my strength and pulled myself to my feet, retreating a short distance until all the remaining members of both the Grummery and Sea Tree familiars were in view. If I was going to be retired, I would at least go out with a perverted bang. I raised my hands in front of me and set my sights on the Prez's bust. Before I go, I'll fulfill my worldly passions. Right, I was about to be removed from the game anyways. That being said, there was no reason not to show off all my cards. I poured my remaining energy into my mind, into my perverted fantasies. What remained of my aura enveloped my body. I wasn't turning it into a destructive power, but instead channeling it into my head. Arise, my lust. Be free, my worldly passions. Using the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, I would aim for new heights. My body only needed to hold on just a little bit longer. This would trump all my previous exploits. If done correctly, this new technique will be unparalleled. Expand, O world of my dreams. At that moment, a mysterious state of being unfolded around me. The female members of both the Grummery and Sea Tree familias must have felt it instinctively, as they all moved to cover their bodies. Be easy, everyone. This new technique doesn't inflict any damage. It isn't nearly as flashy as my dress break one. Then, I called out to the Prez, or rather, to her breasts. Let me hear your voice. Issei, are you alright? Came a cute voice from those tits. You'll get in trouble if you do anything too outlandish. I see. I could hear them. I could hear them. Awesome. Prez, you're worried about me, aren't you? That I'll end up hurting myself if I do anything too strange. A look of astonishment fell over her. Issei, how do you... I turned next to the chairwoman, to her breasts. What are you thinking? Has he developed a way of reading people's minds? Uh-oh, Sona's in trouble. It seems like she already figured it out. Sort of. Evidently, boobs didn't always have the same personality as the person they belonged to. The Princess sounded like a little girl, while the chairwoman's resembled her sister, Seraphal Leviathan. Sona, you're wondering whether my new special move lets me read your mind, right? The chairwoman blanched at my inquiry. Almost, but not quite. I wanted to hear what's going on close to your hearts, directly from your breasts, in their own words. I struck a victorious pose and shouted out with pride. My new technique, boob-lingual. With this, I can hear the voices of all women's tits. Ha ha ha. All I have to do is ask, and they'll reveal to me their ungarnished truth. Could there be any more powerful way of knowing your opponent's thoughts? I don't have enough blood left. I wouldn't stop now. It was all or nothing. The bloodlust was liable to kill me, but at least I would have no regrets. These were voices only I could hear. I'd wished for this for so long. Tearing my stint in the mountains, I had to deny my own sex drive, my overwhelming craving for breasts. No matter how much I wished to see them, there weren't any nude magazines up on that mountain, and of course, there weren't any actual women either. It had been just a dragon in me. Day in, day out, I'd live for a life of meager survival as he chased me around. So what do you think happened to me in that environment? A modern, impressionable teenage boy. It had started with me wanting to talk to girls, to meet them, and ended with me grasping for something akin to an erotic sense of spiritual awakening. I heard about famous monks and the like who sought out seclusion up on mountains to attain enlightenment. Such individuals sought to abandon their worldly desires. I guess you could say I was the exact opposite, seeking only to pursue them. Thus, I arrived at something else, a wellspring of eroticism. It had been nighttime. I was wrapping myself in leaves, thinking endlessly about breasts. During my training, I tried a little Zen meditation. Once or twice, I had even sat beneath a waterfall, my mind filled with nothing but worldly passions. I wanted to grasp them, touch them, suck them, poke them, pinch them. After countless days in this state of mental perseverance, I came to a realization. I wanted to converse with boobs. I was so grateful and blessed to know so many wonderful breasts that I wanted to know what they were thinking and feeling. At the time, I didn't have enough power to make those desires a reality. But with the gifts of the Red Dragon Emperor at my disposal, the possibilities were endless. And now, here we were. Hey, breasts of that bishop over there, talk to me. No, don't, cried the young bishop girl, covering herself. It was far too late, however. Kiba, I'm so excited to be standing on the same battlefield as Kiba. What? So you only got eyes for Kiba? What about you, breasts of the other bishop? When I turned my gaze to the next target, she fell onto her knees. Stop it, gross. Hyodo is terrifying. That armor makes him look so strong and intimidating. So I wonder why I only see him as this perverted freak. Getting dismissed twice in rapid succession was too much for me. I was at my limit. Damn it. Maybe I don't always want to hear what they're thinking. I glanced around, only to find everyone staring at me, their eyes twitching strangely. Why aren't they all surprised at my incredible new skill? The chairwoman was grimacing. The prez letting out a sigh, she held her hand to her forehead. Rias, this is too much. I'm sorry. It's certainly a formidable move, but if he's going to invade people's privacy like that, no female demon is ever going to want to fight you. Yes, I'll give him a stern talking to. What's with that reaction? This is an incredibly useful ability. I mean, with this, I can... You really are a sick pervert. Sick freak. I received a full-blown dressing down from the breasts of everyone gathered, Gremory and Citra familiars alike. I was left speechless. Impossible. I could hear them all as if they're standing right next to me. See? This technique is perfect. I thought confidently. Azia's breasts. What are you thinking? Stupid Issei. He's so badly hurt, and this is all he can think about? But it's nothing I can't heal. So Azi's breasts were the hot and cold tsundere type. Who would have thought that boobs could reveal a person's innermost thoughts? I thought you were cool, but you're a disgusting Red Dragon Emperor. The worst. As usual, Konoko's remarks were scathing. This was no good. My consciousness was fading. I had lost too much blood. Before I left, I had to learn the chairwoman's battle strategy. Chairwoman Sona's breasts. Tell me your strategy. So, this special ward is made by the bishops, right? It's a decoy. Sona isn't here. It's an illusion. It's like only her spirit is here, her aura. She's actually up on the roof. The idea is to trick you all into attacking the ward, to exhaust and weaken you all. Pretty clever, don't you think? So the one that we were looking at was a mirage. She wasn't even here in person. In any event, I had to tell the others what I had just learned from the chairwoman's boobs. Everyone, the chairwoman, behind the ward, it's a trick. The bishops are actually projecting an illusion of her. They want us to waste our energy here. The real chairwoman is on the roof. She's transmitting her spirit here to communicate with us remotely. That's why Konako couldn't sense her on the roof earlier. I guess that's why my boob-lingual technique worked on her too then? Having relayed what I had to, I fell down to the ground. Issei! Azuya began to run my way, but the chairwoman's queen moved to stop her. Azuya stopped where she was and began to pray. A faint light wrapped around her body, slowly spreading through her surroundings. Was this the fruit of her training? Her ranged healing ability at work? She should have known that healing me at this stage would be pointless, but her gentle nature would no doubt meant that she was still worried about me. That girl truly was a good person, and with her breast's hot and cold personalities, she was unrivaled. I've been waiting for you to do that, one of the opposing bishops called out. The image of the chairwoman vanished, the barrier dissipating as the bishop stepped foot into Azuya's healing aura. Was she trying to benefit from her healing power? It didn't look like she was injured. Then she raised her hands into the air and cried, "Reverse!" The pale green light instantly transformed into an ominous deep red. At that moment, a white glow shrouded Azuya's body. She began to disappear. What? Reversing a restorative aura deals damage. Argento's healing abilities are so powerful that reversing them... The bishop flashed Azuya a triumphant grin as she spat out blood. What's happening right now? I've defeated the healer, chairwoman. The bishop managed before vanishing with Azuya. Damn it. They took out Azuya too. My body was engulfed in light. I was already finished. I wish I could march right into the enemy base and promote to a queen, but I'd been defeated before even getting the chance. I was pathetic. That I had been able to use my boob-lingual technique did bring me some comfort, though. Saji, one of Sona Citra's bishops has retired. One of Rias Grimory's bishops and her pawn have retired. Azazel, burst into laughter in the VIP room. So, this is the current Red Dragon Emperor, remarked one of the big-name onlookers. The audience was aghast, given the absurd new technique they just witnessed. Through the viewing monitors, that was natural. Boob-lingual. It was too ludicrous. For a second, even I, whose open-mindedness to all things sexual was widely known, couldn't understand what was happening. And if I was taken aback, the others must have been appalled. On the monitor, Rias' face had turned bright red. I felt sorry for her, but there was no denying this sure was interesting. That said, this boob-lingual technique, it wasn't particularly flashy, but it sure looked effective. So long as a woman led the opposing team, it could sway the outcome of the entire match. The ability seemingly let Issei learn the female enemy's plans. There's no special move more terrifying. Not only that, but it also worked against mental projections. Used properly, it could potentially be undefeatable. Still, Issei certainly had a knack for coming up with new tricks that got women to hate him. I thought he wanted to be popular with girls. It was a shame that he didn't seem to have realized how astonishing this new technique was, using it only to fuel his sexual desires. Rias would probably threaten to ban him in future matches if he used it again. At this rate, they wouldn't be able to participate in any more raiding games. Most familiars had at least a few female members after all. Folly, I can see why you, who are so much higher in rank than Issei Hyodo, have taken such an interest in him, even though he's supposedly the weakest Red Dragon Emperor there has ever been. Yeah, this was an exciting development. That just about summed it up. Someone who you could watch endlessly without getting bored was the best opponent for a battle maniac. So, Volley, Issei keeps growing in different ways from you, developing his powers. What are you gonna do? How are you going to fight him? He keeps exceeding all expectations. Admittedly, I was looking forward to it. It would certainly be fun to watch. In all likelihood, it would end up being the greatest showdown between the red and white of all time. And then there was that reversal technique of the Citra Familia was using. That was the fruit of our research. It was true that we fallen angels had started offering technical assistance to demons, but that move was still in the research stages. Did Armoros or Serio offer it to the Citrus Familia in exchange for data from the match? I wondered. What a bother. We were still conducting trials on that technique, meaning it was still unpredictable. Yet Sona, Citri, and her Familia were using it regardless. That's how much they wanted to win. No matter the cost, no matter the risk. There are some fallen angels who had taken to ripping sacred gears from their hosts and embedding them into themselves. The reversal was similar to such cases, in that it granted the recipient a technique that wasn't originally theirs. However, doing so was known to be dangerous, shortening their lifespans and damaging their natural abilities. Issei had similarly shaved away his life force when he had acquired the White Dragon Emperor's dividing power. There were, of course, cases where someone could receive a new technique without injuring themselves, as Kiba had, but trying to certainly wasn't recommended. Incidentally, I had designed my artificial sacred gears for my own personal use from the get-go, so they carried no such risk. I almost felt guilty about this, but I was going to have to advise that reversal move be banned from future matches. I didn't want to destroy these youngsters' lives before they even fully begun. To think that the reversal would have been used like this. It was initially only meant for invert general opposites, holy into demonic, darkness into light, and so forth. But here they were, deftly altering their opponent's unique powers. I had seen for myself how far the Citra Familia was willing to go. I couldn't wait to behold what happened next. Still, what would the others do now that Issei was gone? Would Rias and Akeno lose their will to keep going? Ho ho ho, what an interesting battle. The graybeard geezer Odin was seemingly enjoying himself as he watched the monitor. To think the selfish old clod was actually praising someone. Sir Zex. Yes. That lad with the dragon-type sacred gear. Issei Hyoto, the Red Dragon Emperor. Surprisingly, Odin shook his head. No, the Citri Familia's pawn. Ah, so he's more interested in that one. He's a good demon. Be sure to look after him. He'll be quite the fighter one day. It was no small feat defeating that Red Dragon Emperor lad. This is what I enjoy about watching you demons play around with your rating games. The weak can evolve before your very eyes. Yes, this is what battles are all about. Odin was paying the greatest possible compliment to someone he had been unaware of just a few hours ago. Right, you get it, don't you, Pops? Seraphal said, ecstatic. She was undoubtedly overjoyed to hear her sister's Familia being praised like this. Never mind that she'd been watching on the verge of tears up until now. Sona Citri's pawn. Genshiro Saji, wasn't it? It was fair to say that my estimation of him had increased even more than Issei during this match. This rating game was being broadcast throughout the underworld. Against all expectations, this hetero 4 nameless dragon-type sacred gear host may well now have exceeded the fame of the Red Dragon Emperor. Issei, Rias, there are going to be all kinds of difficulties in store for you. Now that Issei and Azia had left the battlefield, there were only 4 of us remaining. Me, Yuto Kiba, the president, Akeno, and Konako. The other side had 3 fighters left, the chairwoman, Shinra, and the other bishop. Our Familia had expected to dominate, but there have been several upsets. The supposedly superior side has lost half its members. I could practically hear the disappointment of the high-class demons watching. The president's reputation was sure to suffer because of this. We couldn't afford to let it fall any further than it already had. Issei, the life of our Familia, was gone. That was a considerable loss. I was managing to push on despite it, but I was worried about the president. If Azia was still with us, she would certainly be in shock too. For now, we remaining members simply had to keep going. As shocking as Issei's defeat had been, so long as it didn't affect our performance, there shouldn't be a problem. And yet, losing Azia had been a nasty surprise. How had they known that using the reverse technique, while she was employing her healing abilities, her ranged version no less, Azu's restorative powers were immense. The damage caused by that inversion must have been immeasurable. More importantly, Azu had been defeated in a split second. The other team's bishop, Hanakai was her name, had also been retired. Chairwoman Sona must have predicted that we would try to heal at range, and this had been her countermeasure. She had also understood that Azu's sacred gear didn't discriminate between friend or foe. If the other team had used a reverse move while we were all receiving treatment, we would have been wiped out. It was a frightening strategy. That was just how much foresight the chairwoman possessed. Hanakai's sacrifice was proof of the Sitri Familia's bond. To me, it seemed even more stronger than ours. Such a tour de force was only possible if one truly believed in their allies. Then, there was Issei's new technique. There wasn't anything I could say about that. Still, if it worked against all women, it could be quite dangerous. Now was hardly the time to ponder such things, however. Chairwoman Sona wasn't planning to win this match through raw strength, but by turning our own immense power against us with careful planning. This was what the reigning game was all about. Might alone wasn't enough to guarantee victory. The president rose to her feet, glancing up above. She was probably trying to locate the chairwoman up on the roof. Even having lost Issei, she kept her cool, as was expected of a king. If a king were to lose her composure, it would have a disastrous effect on the rest of their familia. Konako, can you sense her? The president asked. Yes, I couldn't earlier, but I could detect her ki coming from the roof. She must have been projecting her aura earlier and using a technique to suppress her presence and conceal her true location. Konako's ears twitched as she spoke, probably as she tried to pinpoint the chairwoman. Those cat ears of hers were really cute. She still seemed ready to fight, even with Issei gone. It was a relief to know that the others were still raring to go. I pointed my blade at Shinra and the other bishop. Now then, how shall we do this? As fellow swordsmen, what do you say we decide this with our blades? Fine with me. In chess, pawns most often promote to queens, but now and then, they might become a knight, which can change a battle's outcome. There may be a great many differences between chess and the reigning game, but this should be a good fight. And so my duel against Shinra had been decided. As for the remaining bishop, Kusaka, Akeno's golden aura appeared in the corner of my vision, crackling with energy. There was a strange hue to her aura, and her teary eyes radiated a cold, forlorn feeling. I wanted to show Issei my dedication, she muttered as she took a dazed, wobbly step forward. I could sense an unusual feeling of pressure emanating from her. I wanted to show Issei my dedication by using this disgusting power in front of him, but now... She slowly raised her arms before her. I'll never forgive you. Her sadist side was now on full display. It was her most dangerous form. I hadn't expected that our usually stoic vice president would respond to Issei's loss like this. I'll erase you. With those quiet words of fury, a huge ball of lightning shot from her hands, speeding towards Bishop Kusaka. Reverse. At the moment of impact, Kusaka spread her hands and tried to invert the effects of the lightning, and yet a fierce onslaught of energy engulfed her. She hadn't been able to alter the lightning attempt and took a direct hit. Within a split second, she was surrounded by a white glow and disappeared from the stage. It's no use. She tried to reverse my attack, but I unleashed both electricity and light. There was no inverting it at all. One of Sona Sichi's bishops has retired. They can't alter it if they don't know what they're targeting. As Akeno had declared, it looked like Kusaka hadn't yet mastered how to use the reverse ability. Akeno directed her hands at the queen, Shinra, ignoring my duel with her. The shock of losing Issei and her anger over not being able to show him the power of her holy lightning had left her blind to me. It might have been that feeling that had helped her come to terms with those abilities, but it was an unexpected development nonetheless. I hadn't realized Issei meant so much to her. Shinra recognized she was in danger and bolted away. A bolt of lightning lands straight for her. Any demon hit by that would be defenseless. Akeno's newly unleashed powers combined electricity with a demon's greatest weakness, holy light. It was frightening to imagine what the outcome might be. Shinra, however, successfully evaded and fled to the back of the shopping mall. I took off after her at breakneck speed. When it came to agility, I was second to none. I created a fresh holy demon sword as I ran, bringing it down on Shinra when I caught up to her. However, she parried the strike with her halberd. I had no way of knowing when she would bring out that counter-type sacred gear. At that moment, she retrieved a small vial from her pocket. The Phoenix Tears. The chairwoman had entrusted them to her queen. She threw the vial in my direction and then lashed out at it with her halberd, sending the liquid flying my way. "Reverse!" she cried. She was trying to invert that healing potion into something that could knock me out in one hit, similar to what happened with Azia. I wasted no time transforming my holy demon sword into a water-based blade. The altered liquid merged with the water. When Phoenix Tears combined with something else, they lost their potency. In other words, I had nullified their inverted damage potential. All I needed was the smallest of openings. Shinra cried, turning her razor-sharp halberd on me. Her use of Phoenix Tears had only been meant as a distraction, yet, even so, holy demon swords erupted in great numbers all around. The blades shooting out of the ground carved Shinra's halberd into pieces, disarming her. At present, I have no openings. I began to unleash a follow-through attack when she summoned a mirror technique between us. I quickly weakened my attack as much as possible and pushed it into the mirror, with only enough force to break through. As the reflective surface cracked, the impact came to me twofold, but it was nothing that I couldn't withstand. I gritted my teeth and raised my left arm into the air, and then I intoned words of power. Saints Peter, Basil, Dennis, and Virgin Mary, heed my call. The space around me warped, and I thrust my hands into the rift opening in the air. No way, it can't be. Shinra, realizing what I was doing, exclaimed in disbelief. In the name of the saints who dwell within the blade, I release you, Durandal. Yes, what I retrieved from the rift was that legendary holy sword, the Durandal. Zenovia, I'll avenge you here and now. I followed through with my momentum and brought the holy weapon to bear in a wide slash. The blade made impact, dealing significant damage to its target. Nonetheless, Shinra didn't activate her counter-type sacred gear. Perhaps she couldn't use it again so soon. This was Zenovia's idea. She agreed to relinquish this blade to me, in the event that she was rendered unable to fight. Indeed, she had taught me how to use the Durandal. But you aren't supposed to be able to use holy swords, Shinra murmured as her body was enveloped in white light. You're right, and that's something I suffered deeply for. But the situation has changed. Thanks to my balance breaker, it seems like I can handle the Durandal now. The weapon was emitting a dull tone. Unlike what was often the case when Zenovia was using it, those vibrations weren't out of control or overly destructive. What? That's... Not even Zenovia had mastered it to that level. Shinra gaped. I had a different opinion on the situation. Zenovia's aura is one of someone who seeks power, and the Durandal perhaps responds to that when she wields it. However, I choose accuracy over power, ability over strength. Even though I had tried to suppress its potential, the shockwave from my attack had still ended up tearing a huge gash through the floor and a reasonable distance past Shinra. That will probably reflect poorly on me later. Zenovia told me how unruly this weapon is, that it doesn't like to be tamed by its master, and I see now how right she is. The destruction is more intense than I intended. I guess I'm still a way off from fully wielding it. This runs contrary to our calculations, Sona. It isn't Hyoto who we should have been worried about. The real ace. The one we should have been watching most carefully. It's Yuto Kiba. Those were Shinra's final words as she disappeared from the stage. Sona Citri's queen has retired. My goal has always been to surpass Issei. or rather, the Red Dragon Emperor. Our loss against Rise's Phoenix Familia had been beyond vexing. Issei wasn't the only one who refused the outcome back then. I, Rias Gremory's knight, had been unable to protect her. And then, even after I unlocked my balance breaker, still I hadn't been able to beat Kokabule, or take part in the battle against the White Dragon Emperor. I had been no use at all on either occasion. It brought me no end of frustration. I can't take it, Issei. That's why I restarted my training from scratch, with the help of my mentor. I had to improve my swordsmanship. Perhaps this sort of attitude didn't suit me, but it wouldn't stop me from improving through diligence, hard work, and patience. Getting full of myself just because I reached my balance breaker would only keep me from accepting my weaknesses. And I hate it when people act like the Red Dragon Emperor is the president's only servant. You may be aiming to defeat Volley, but my goal has only ever been to serve as my master's sword and stand beside you as your friend and comrade. Rias Gremory didn't just have the Red Dragon Emperor, she also had the Holy Demon Sword, and me. I will renew my vow here and now. I will never make my master, Rias Gremory, cry again. The only remaining opponent was the other team's king, Chairwoman Sona Seatree. The sky above the shopping mall was white and empty, completely vacant. That was probably because the mall existed in a fabricated realm, created solely for this match. The other 3 remaining members of our team and I had reached the roof. Chairwoman Sona stood in front of us, wearing a forced smile as she looked our way. "What are you doing up here?" the president asked. "A king must survive until the very end. That is our role. If the king is lost, the raiding game will end then and there, no?" "I didn't mean on such a technical level. Rias, Saji had defeated your Red Dragon Emperor. Neither you nor Issei made any fatal blunders. So don't underestimate Saji. You aren't the only ones fighting desperately for your future." "I've seen that firsthand. Now then, shall we settle this, Sona?" The president stepped forward. Did she mean to fight the chairwoman one-on-one? Rias was the kind of person who wouldn't listen if I tried to stop her. However, should there be any danger, I'll step in immediately to help. I won't accept any complaints, I declared. The president didn't respond, but she must have understood. If something happened and she found herself near defeat, I would come to her aid, regardless of any protests. After all, if our king fell, the battle would be over, and I wasn't supposed to let that happen to her. And so the fatal duel between dear friends began to unfold. The chairwoman gathered a water-like aura around her and began to give it shape. The mass wasn't just water, however. It seemed to be formed from liquid scattered all throughout the mall. This was perhaps to be expected of a member of the House of Seatree, whose members specialized in aqua-based magic. The older sister supposedly excelled in manipulating ice, while the younger specialized in water. The president's demonic magic was imbued with the power of destruction, attacks capable of annihilating her enemies. Without even a moment of hesitation, she unleashed an endless barrage of energy projectiles at her friend, the chairwoman, like a machine gun. Each shot was only around the size of a softball, but I could feel just how highly charged everyone was. Clearly, she had taken her summer training very seriously. It was likely the rule against damage in the battlefield that kept her from going all out. Chairwoman Sona manipulated liquid into a wall to shield herself from the president's attacks. When a blast collided, it exploded, removing an equal portion of water. However, as the chairwoman was continuously drawing more water from throughout the shopping mall, her barrier was holding firm. "Now then, Rias, how about I show you my techniques?" The chairwoman shaped and gathered liquid with her demonic magic, transforming it into a flock of hawks taking off through the air. Serpents slithering across the ground, fierce lions, a pack of wolves, and several large dragon-like figures. How was she able to create so many things all at once? Her magical skills looked to be greater than even the president's. "Just what I've been waiting for, Sona," Rias declared with a dauntless grin, compressing her destructive power and laying waste to many approaching constructs. The maneuver was so incredible that the lesser opponent would have been swept away instantly. Crushing so many of the chairwoman's creatures was an impressive feat. Both young women possessed an expert understanding of their abilities. The president was a true powerhouse, while the chairwoman was a technical master. They each braced themselves and loosed their attacks at the exact same moment. Resignation acknowledged. Rias Gremory is the victor. I woke up after the end of the match in the bed in the hospital room of sort. This was the first time I found myself here. My condition was more of an issue of blood loss than physical injury. From what I gathered, I had been given a transfusion immediately upon arrival, thanks to which I can move around relatively freely. I stepped outside and grabbed a drink from the vending machine corner. We had won. That said, Gasper, Zenobia, and Ozzy and I had all been defeated. A full half of our members, our familia, which had entered the match backed by expectation of a landslide victory, had undoubtedly fallen in status. In particular, the matter of Gasper's loss so early in the match, and the fact that I, the Red Dragon Emperor, had been bested at all, were particularly damaging to our reputation. As the fight hadn't proceeded as smoothly as anticipated, our evaluation by the high-class demon leaders was harsh. Kiba's fantastic efforts may have claimed us a victory in the end, but when it came down to it, the rating game had been settled by a direct face-off between two kings. It was our first victory, yet it didn't feel like a complete triumph. There was no denying that it had been a strenuous battle. We may have had overwhelming strength and power, but it hadn't been enough. Yeah, this is bad. I shook my head and decided to check on Saji in his room to lighten my mood. We may have been bitter enemies during the fight, but now that it was over, we were back to being friends. I could start by boasting about the president's breasts again. Take this. Came a voice from Saji's room. Sir Zax? The door was slightly ajar, so I peeked inside. Saji was sitting on his bed, with Sir Zax and the chairwoman standing beside him. Sir Zax had just handed Saji something. A small, expensive-looking box. This is for... Saji was trembling nervously. An award for that outstanding performance that you gave in the rating game. Sir Zax answered with a smile. I lost against Hyoto. I don't deserve this. Saji muttered, his fist tightening in frustration as he clutched at his bedsheets. That's true, but in the end, you also defeated him, the Red Dragon Emperor. We were all watching your battle with great interest. Even the Norse god Odin spoke highly of you. Sir Zax paused there, retrieving a medal from the box and attaching it to Saji's chest. Don't disparage yourself. You are the kind of demon who can aim for the top. It brings me great pleasure to meet with youth with such a promising future ahead of him. Devote yourself in your pursuits. I have high hopes for you. With that, he patted Saji on the head. No matter how many years or decade it takes, never give up. You can become a rating game teacher. At these words of praise, Saji's eyes overflowed with an endless torrent of tears. Saji, a great many people witnessed your bravery today. You fought brilliantly. Chairwoman Sona stated, her eyes radiating calm and self-assurance. She was probably overjoyed. Despite her loss, her prided servant and her familia had earned favor with many demon bigwigs. Saji brushed his fingers against the metal on his chest before wiping his tears away and nodding confidently. Yeah, thank you. It would have been rude for me to hang around any longer, so I made my way back to my room. Congrats, Saji. Here I thought Vali was my only rival, the only person whom I had to defeat, but I had been wrong. I had to apologize to Saji when I had the chance. Hey, which one of us do you think is going to become a high-class demon first and make all of our dreams come true? I won't lose, never. Next time we fight, I will be the winner. So I'm looking forward to a rematch sometime against Shiro Saji, my rival. I spotted Rias as I was about to enter my room. Prez. She had noticed me too, perking up slightly. And so we entered the hospital room and began to have a chat. Good work during our match, Issei. You did well, but don't embarrass me like that, okay? Your sex drive is really over the top, you know. There was a hint of reluctance behind her smile. I kinda embarrassed her again. Sorry. My new technique and power-ups tend to be pretty perverted. That technique has been banned from use in future rating games. What? Are you serious? No way. Seriously? Why? Because it's so indecent? Because we won't be able to fight against female opponents if you use it. If you're okay with it, then I'll accept that. I nodded with tears in my eyes. What a shame. To think that I would only ever be able to use it in combat this once. Hold on. Did that mean I could still use it outside rating games? In real life battles? Still, the press gave me a strange sort of look. Still, we finally have our first victory under our belt. We fared better than last time. But we still lost you, Azia, Zenobia, and Gasper. Even if we've been called one of the most talented and powerful familias alive today, none of that will mean anything if we can't make a good show of ourselves on the field. We might have odds on our side, but that isn't to say we're invincible. It was just as she said. Had we taken one wrong step during our match with the chairwoman's familia, things would have turned out differently. Our opponent's chances might have been slim, but they had put up a desperate fight, pushing forward in belief that they could find their way to victory. If we let ourselves get overconfident or let our guards down, we wouldn't be able to win matches that should be easily ours. Today has been a powerful reminder of that. It was a difficult thing, this reigning game, and the same could be said for combat too. Just when I thought the path of becoming a high-class demon like the Prez was opening up before me, it suddenly felt further away than ever. Still, it wasn't impossibly distant. One day, I will get there. Then again, both Akeno and Konako managed to come to terms with who they are thanks to this match. On that count, I couldn't be happier, Rias said, radiating gentleness. Yeah, me too. I know we won, but it still kind of feels like a loss. But I'm so happy Konako and Akeno are moving forward. It's all because of you, Issei. Everyone in this familia is breaking through their limitations, and they have you to thank for that. You've helped me smash through my hindrances as well. I'm so grateful. I didn't do anything. I've only been trying to keep everyone happy. I wanted to move forward with the others, even if there were occasionally rough patches, like our last match. My hopes was that we'd all be charging through together, because we were all friends. Issei, I'm glad that you're in my familia. Stay with me forever. Of course, Prez. I'll always be by your side. It warmed my heart to see you beaming with such joy. All of a sudden, there was a rapping at my door. Come in, I called out, only for an old man who I'd never seen before step inside. He was wearing a large hat over his head and looked to have lost one eye. On top of that, he had a long, white, flowing beard. Who are you, Gramps? I asked uncertainly. I'm the old man of the north. It looks like you need to train a little harder, Red Dragon Emperor. None can say that you lack dedication, though. Why was this geezer acting so familiar all of a sudden? And how did he know that I was a Red Dragon Emperor? It's a pleasure to meet you, Lord Odin. I'm Rias Gremory. The press seemed to recognize him. Odin? I felt like I heard that name somewhere before. Yes. Sir Zek's little sister. I had my eye on you during the match. You're a determined one too, I see. Yes. They really are big. I was transfixed by them the whole time. The old man was staring lecherously at the press's breasts. Hey, you wrinkly bastard. Those tits are mine. No one else is allowed to look at them like that. Just as I was about to protest, a beautiful armored woman had entered the room. Without my realizing it, hit Odin over the head with a paper fan. How many times have I told you? That obscene look of yours is unacceptable. We are about to have an important meeting. As the chief god of the Norse, pull yourself together. You never miss a beat, do you, Valkyrie? There is no need to remind me. I'm supposed to be discussing terrorism, countermeasures with the angels, demons, and fallen angels. Zeus from the Greek Pantheon, and Indra from Mount Sumeru, you see? The old man muttered, scratching his head before glancing at Rias and me. Well, that's enough of that, sister of Sir Zex, Red Dragon Emperor. The world is full of trials and tribulations, but there is a lot to enjoy out there too. Experience everything it has to offer, pleasures and pains alike. Daring and impetuousness are how stripings grow. Oh ho ho ho. With those parting words, the geezer and the young armored lady left the room. Just who was that old timer? He stared at the Prez's breasts. Anyone who tried to make a move on those boobs was my enemy, period. And I wouldn't let it happen. I asked the Prez about him again afterwards, only to be told that he was apparently a Norse god. To me, he seemed like nothing more than a lecherous godder. There were still a lot of things I had yet to learn about this world. It was late August. We members of Rias Grammari's Familia were being seen off at the train station by Rias' family and servants from the main Grammary estate. Issei, I look forward to meeting you again, the Prez's father stated. A group of attendants was standing behind him. Feel free to visit at any time. It would please me greatly if you thought of us as your own family. Thank you, but I don't know if I deserve all that, I replied with a forced smile. There's no need to be so modest, Issei, the Prez's mother insisted. Please look after Rias in the human world. My daughter has a strong selfish streak and is always making us worry. Mother, what are you saying? The Prez's face turned scarlet. She was so cute. I will, of course. I nodded, beating my chest proudly. I would take care of the Prez. It might not be the most discreet thing to say out loud, but I would guard that woman I loved with all my heart. Ah, look at me getting all teary. Our family has a bright future ahead. Rias' father was crying. Where had that come from? At his side, Venalana let out a sigh. Hold on, dear. At times like this, don't fathers normally refuse to give their daughters away so soon? That's easy for you to say, but Issei here seems to have already surpassed me in terms of strength and power, so I've been thinking that it might be about time to settle down. At least wait until Rias had graduated from high school before talking about retirement. The Prez's father sounded like he was excited about something, but what exactly? Rias, do at least send us a postcard before the end of your summer break, Sir Zex requested, holding his son Milicus in his arms, and with Graphia standing behind him. I will. Stay well, Milicus. You too, Auntie Rias. With that, we boarded our train and bid our final farewells from the window. At that moment, I suddenly realized that Sir Zex, Milicus, and one other person beside the two had a certain look about them. Staring down at the three of them, I thought they resembled a typical family portrait. Maybe Sir Zex hadn't been joking when he met my parents. On the train ride home, I was racking my brain over my untouched homework. I had been so busy here in the underworld that I had completely forgotten about it. Then I suddenly realized that the better part of my summer vacation trapped on a mountaintop with a dragon. I felt like bawling my eyes out. My precious youth had been wasted in a game of survival. I hadn't even gone on a date with the Prez, or gotten up to any erotic amusements with Akeno. I couldn't help but weep as I scribbled away at my school assignments. But at least I had some incredible experiences in the underworld, and I certainly learned a lot. The Grammary Familia had raw power to spare, yet without intelligent tactics, we were liable to get killed by a team with more discipline and control. If I was going to participate in raiding games as a king myself one day, I would need to start thinking seriously about strategy. I mean, no matter how mighty the legendary dragon that dwelled inside me was, if I would recklessly charge straight at my opponent's traps, I would get crushed. If that happened when I was a king, it would spell immediate loss. My immense strength should have clinched a victory, but Saji had bested me with his wit. Abruptly, I felt concerned for the future. I decided to ask a question to the person sitting beside me. Prez? What? I've been acting pretty reckless, trying to become the harem king. That's still my goal. And my feelings haven't changed. But Tanin said something to me, that I would be wasting my potential if that was my endgame. So I given it a bit of thought. A normal harem won't do at all. I'm going to have to build an unbeatable one. The most enthralling harem in the world. The Prez initially looked surprised at this admission, but soon gave a broad smile. It looks like our summer training camp was a huge success then. Meeting other demons in the underworld seems to have opened your eyes a little. Hopefully, this experience will help us both grow and move forward. Yeah, I'll give it my all. All of a sudden, Konako appeared out of nowhere and sat herself down on my lap. I had no idea what was going on, but she curled up on my knees, staring up at me as her cat ears twitched. Konako? I asked timidly. Meow. She answered, beaming. Whoa, that was enough by itself to completely overload my brain. Azuya looked to be sulking, the Prez was watching, half scowling, and while Akeno was outwardly smiling, I could feel the intense pressure coming from her. There was danger all around, but I couldn't deny Konako. Cuteness is justice. Things remained that way as the train passed into the human realm. Life in the underworld had been fun. This was a summer vacation I would never forget. I stretched my muscles as I disembarked at the underground platform beneath the train station in my hometown. Ah, we're finally here. Alright then, let's go home, Azuya. However, when I turned to look at her, I found that a mysterious man with a gentle appearance had approached her. Azuya Argento, we finally meet. Azuya looked confused. This was bad. Was this guy some sort of pervert? A groper? I wouldn't let him lay a finger on my blonde angel. Hey, what do you want with Azuya? I demanded, putting myself between the two of them. Curiously, the man's eyes were filled with sincerity. So, you must have forgotten about me. Hold on. I've seen this guy somewhere before. All of a sudden, he opened his shirt, revealing a massive scar on his chest. The remains of some deep wound. Azuya's eyes widened in surprise. That mark, could it be? Perhaps she recognized him now? Yes, I couldn't show my face back then, but I was the demon that you saved. Azuya was rendered speechless by this announcement. My name is Theodora Astaroth. While your healing abilities weren't potent enough to remove the scar at the time, your sacred gear unquestionably saved my life. Azuya had told me about her past once before. After randomly encountering a demon and saving their life, she had been driven out of her order and branded a witch by the church. Theodora, right? The Prez looked as she recognized this man too. Ah, now I remember, I thought. He'd been at the Demon U social. The handsome, young, high-class demon. He was from the family of the current Beelzebub. At that moment, Theodora dropped to one knee, took Azuya's hand in his own, and kissed it. That bastard! What does he think he's doing? I would have lunged towards him, but his eyes were fixed on Azuya as he continued. I came to meet you, Azuya. Forgive me for not being able to greet you during the time of the gathering. I'm sure that it was fate that brought us together. I would love nothing more for you to marry me. I love you. Before my very eyes, Theodora popped the question to Azuya. Although the sweltering summer days were coming to an end, it looked like a long autumn was on the horizon.